Well, hello all, and welcome to my kitchen. So we're back in here this afternoon, and we're going to be cooking us up something from my childhood and youth, something we always had during the heat of the summer. It's definitely summertime here deep south. Days, cool ones, 95 degrees, the hot ones, upper 90s. And what we want when we get done with the day is something that's cool and filling. So today we're going to be making some old-fashioned southern style potato salad, and I'm going to show you just how we do it and how it was done all through my life. So stay with us. So we're going to need a few things, and I say this is old-fashioned potato salad, and there's one reason for that. That's your choice potatoes right here. Conventional modern potato salad wisdom tells you to use waxy potatoes, like red potatoes, Yukon Golds, or fingerlings. But I can tell you this, I never saw any of those in the kitchen when I was growing up, whether it was at my great-grandmother's, my grandma's, or my mother's kitchen. What we did have, we had russets. And these are russets. These right here are russet potatoes. They're actually a Burbank russet from Idaho. And then here and here, another one back there, are my russet potatoes. They're the last of what I have from growing last year. So you're going to need yourself about 2.5–3 pounds of potatoes, russet. There's a reason for that. It just makes it more velvety smooth. You're going to need you an onion. I've got me a yellow onion right here. Don't use white, it's too strong. Now, if you have some Vidalia, that's the ticket. And you're going to need you some celery. We have it right here. Then what you're going to need is some mayo. Now you can use whatever mayo you like, but if you haven't tried Duke's, then you don't know what you're missing. Duke's is famous here in the South, and we just can't live without it. You're going to need you some apple cider vinegar. Of course, you're going to need you some black pepper too. Salt. Some oregano leaves, not ground, leaves. Some parsley flakes. Some basil. And of course some sugar right here. Put a little bit of sweetness in it. As far as cooking utensils, you're going to need a colander of some type. I'm going to just use my little old plastic one here that I've had for about 40 years. And a nice big pot. So the first thing we want to do, we're going to wash up these potatoes. And then we're going to start peeling them. Yep, I said peeling them. Now if you want to eat them with the skins on, that's up to you. I don't care for it any. So let me set up the camera. We'll get to washing these potatoes and peeling them, chopping some onion and some celery, and we'll be right back. We're going to dump all these potatoes right here in the sink. Now yeah, I done washed up this sink. And you might think, well, he said he was going to peel them. And I am. But I don't want to handle them with any dirt on them. And you can do what you want. I always give mine a little bit of rinse off. Try to keep them out of the drain there. That way as I'm peeling them, they don't get all muddy. Here's one of mine that I grew this year, and this one here. And of course, this is the last 3 potatoes I have from last season. And rightfully so, that's a good thing. Because I got potatoes maturing right now, and it won't be but a week or 2 before I'm digging them. So I came up a little bit shy. It'll be okay. Got them all peeled up right there. excuse me, got them all rinsed. Now next thing you want to do is you want to put some water in your pot. Now I use filtered tap water right here via this Brita filter. And what we're going to be doing, I don't peel with a knife because my knives are extremely sharp and they tend to cut me. I use this little old peeler right here. I think I've had this one for like 30 years. I just peel them in my sink and then I'm going to drop them in that pot of water. Now why is that important? It keeps your potatoes from turning all gray and yucky looking. Until you get your potatoes cooking, you want to keep them submerged underwater. That keeps them from oxidizing and turning gray on you. That's just a little tip, especially if you're making hash browns. Definitely. But we're going to peel them up here. And we're going to place them right there in the pot. And they'll be fine. The next step in this process is we're going to have to chop these potatoes up some before we get them cooking. Like I said, if you like the peels, then you go ahead and cook them up with the peels on them. But with me, as you can see here, and I'll show you, it's hard to tell the bad places in the potato. Like there's a dark place right there. I don't want that. That's why I peel them. That way I can see if there's anything bad with the potato. So we're just going to go ahead and get these peeled on up, placed in this pot, and then we'll come back. Okay, we're back. We got all these potatoes right here, all peeled. And not sure you can see it on camera, but this water's getting a little bit discolored, sort of cloudy. That's the starch coming out in potatoes, because these are russets and they're a starchy potato rather than a waxy potato like the red, Yukon Gold, or fingerlings. That's the part of this that makes the difference between a modern day potato salad and the old-fashioned potato salad that we had when we were kids. All the difference in the world. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start dicing these potatoes up. And we're just going to take and cut them. Don't got to get fancy here. But you want them sort of be 3/4 to 1 inch pieces. If you like them smaller, that's fine. If you don't, I like mine sort of chunky. You cut them whatever size you want. We're going to go ahead and get all these cut up. And then what we got to do is we're going to rinse them, change out this water. And some of them are a little bit smaller. That's fine too. That's where the velvety, creamy texture of this potato salad comes in. So I sort of think you get the idea. Now you can put them on a chopping block or board if you would like. I always cut them in my hand. It's the way my mama did, my grandmother did. So that's what I do too. And like I say, this knife's extremely sharp. And on occasion, I will cut myself. So y'all be careful if you do it this way. Now if you got dull knives, that's a good way to cut yourself anyway. And once we get them all diced, chopped up, we'll be back. Okay, you can probably see it now. We've got all the potatoes diced up. See, they're all diced up 3/4 to 1 inch size, but you can dice them any way you want. But you might be able to see just how cloudy that water has got now that we've diced them, placed them back in the water. That's the starch coming out of these starchy potatoes. And what we'll do next is we're going to pour this water off. We're going to fill it up again, and we may pour it off again depending on how cloudy it gets. But in the end, we'll refill this pot with filtered water, and we'll get her on the stove. So we'll be right back. Well, we got her drained off there. Now we're going to fill it up again. Filtered water, cold. Of course, here in the deep south, cold water's not to be had this time of year. We don't put our pipes in too deep. Water tends to get lukewarm this time of year. Yep. Just barely under body temperature. That's deep south for you. We'll fill this up again, and then we're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. Let some more of that starch come out. Now, if you were using a waxy potato like a red potato, Yukon Gold, probably wouldn't have to do this process. But then again, you wouldn't be making old-fashioned potato salad from back in the day. Because if you ever make it with russet potatoes, you'll never make it any other way again. Now, there are some secrets to it as we go along, and I'll point those out. So we're going to let these sit in that water for about 5 minutes, drain it back out, and then we're going to refill it with filtered water, put it on the stove, and get it boiling. Okay, we went ahead and drained these potatoes from the first water that we had after we peeled them, and we diced them. And you can see right now that the water's fairly clear. You can see the potatoes, where before in the first water you couldn't even see them, it was so cloudy. So these potatoes are ready to go on the stove, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put them on the stove. We're going to bring them up to a boil, and once they're boiling, we're going to add salt. And we're going to let them cook for about approximately 10 minutes. But the true test will come when we stick them with a fork. And that's the part where you got to learn just how long to cook your potatoes. But I'll go through it as we're doing it. So we're over here at the stove, and we're going to put that big old pot of potatoes in the water on the stove there. And we're going to want to bring this up to a boil. And once it gets boiling, then we're going to add salt. Now, the reason I don't add salt in the beginning, it takes longer for the water to boil. You can check that on Google. So we're going to leave that burner, and I've got a gas stove, you might have electric, on high till this comes to a boil. Then we'll add in the salt, and we'll go approximately 10 minutes. But something I forgot to add in the ingredients when we were talking about them earlier is we're going to need 3 eggs, because we're going to drop 3 eggs in here to boil, because we'll be adding them to the potato salad. So I have to get them out of the refrigerator now. Now I've got my 3 eggs right here. Rinsed them off a little bit because I am setting them down in these potatoes. I don't want them dirty. I'm going to put them on in there. And we're going to be cooking these eggs with the potatoes. And then we'll peel them up. But like I say, we're not going to add the salt to this until this comes to a boil. Just a little tip there. Set a little timer there to remind me to come back and check this, see if it's boiling yet. Because we all know a watch pot won't boil. So what are we going to do? We're going to watch some YouTube videos. Okay, we're back. And you can just start to see some bubbles rising to the top. So this water is about to boil. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. At which time we'll check the potatoes and we'll remove the eggs, because if you let the eggs cook too long, they'll actually get that grayish green circle around the yolks. Nobody wants that. So let me set the timer. We'll set that for 10 minutes. And we'll come back, pull these eggs out, get them to cooling, and check the potatoes. Oh, and I forgot one thing. Now that it's starting to boil, we've got to add some salt. And you're going to want to add a tablespoon of salt. Don't be scared. I sort of give it a heaping tablespoon. Then we're going to give that a little bit of stir. Potatoes take a lot of salt. They soak it right up. Dropped our salt in, and we're just going to give this a nice stir, and we'll let it go for the 10 minutes. We'll come back, pull those eggs out, and check the potatoes, see how they're coming. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. So we're going to fish out these eggs because we don't want them to overcook. We're going to put them right here in this little pot so we can put them on the sink and start cooling them down. Now we just got to find that third one. It's in here somewhere. Right there it is. And I'm going to take these over to the sink, start running some cold water on them. Don't want them to overcook. So we got them cooling down. Next thing we want to do, we want to check and see how our potatoes are coming. So we're going to grab one of them. Got one right there. You see how that fork just slides right in? No resistance. Potatoes just a little bit crumbly. Splits in half. That's perfect. So we're going to get these out. And we're going to strain them, fill them with cold water so they can be cooling down. Okay, we got the eggs there in the little pot. Got cold water, well, as cold as we got, running into it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drain those potatoes and start letting them cool. Now you want to let your potatoes cool because you don't want to add your dressing, which is going to be primarily mayonnaise, to hot potatoes. Otherwise, it's going to break on you. It's sort of going to become a greasy, slimy mess at that point. So you definitely want to let your potatoes cool to the room temperature. Good potato salad Takes time, folks. It's not a rush. So, add them back in. Hopefully the camera didn't all fog up on us. Got them drained off. We'll add these back in. Got one right there. And we'll let these start cooling down. And while they're cooling, we're going to chop up some onion and celery. Do not rinse your potatoes after they're cooked. That's a no-no. Rinse them before they cook, not afterwards. Okay, something I wanted to show you was, if you'll remember, we put the 3 eggs in once the water came to a boil, and we left them in there for the 10 minutes. And you can see just how pretty they came out. They peeled so easily that the peels came off in strips. So don't be afraid of putting your eggs in there and cooking them with the potatoes. Let the water come to a boil, slide them on in the boiling water, cook for 10 minutes, get them out, check your potatoes. Potatoes are fine, like mine were. Then you can drain off the potatoes and start letting them cool. Now while the potatoes are cooling, we're going to go ahead and cut up some onion and celery. I went ahead and peeled the onion off camera. And this is about 3/4 of a yellow onion. Small to medium. That'll be just fine. Just gonna slice that in half real quick. And now you can cut your onion up as small or as large as you like. I sort of like it small, so I'm going to start by slicing it first. After I cut in half. Then I'm going to take it and cut back across the slices. Now if you don't like a lot of onion in your potato salad, you can cut it down some. It's not going to hurt anything. Still going to be tasty. So there you have it. If you got any long pieces in there, cut them up too. But you can see the size of the onion. It's real small. We're going to go ahead and slide that off in our stainless steel bowl. That's where we're going to be mixing up what is referred to as the dressing. Now I like onion. You may not. You may not want as much. But here again, remember, this is a yellow onion, not a white. Yellow onions are not as strong as white. White are better for cooking like stews and soups. And if they're in season, medallion onions from Georgia work great in this recipe. But I didn't have any. Got all the onion diced up there. Slide that off in our bowl. Now we gotta get some celery. Now just for you, we're gonna measure that onion because I know you're gonna want to know how much it is. And my recipe calls for a half cup. So I might have cut a little bit too much up. And we did. Got a half cup right there. So I'll get a baggie out and I'll rake the rest of this onion into a Ziploc baggie, and I'll be able to use it for something else because I don't want to put too much in it. This is potato salad, not onion salad. Now don't worry, I cleaned and sanitized the counter. Always do before I start cooking. We'll throw the leftover chopped onion in the fridge, use it for something else. So, got us a half cup of chopped onion. We'll add that into the bowl. Now we have to chop celery. Which we just happen to have right there. Now you're going to want 1 cup of diced celery. Cut those little ends off right there. Bring over our compost bag. And we're going to cut the end off. Now I saved the end. That's for another video. And we're just going to take the celery, leaves and all, and we're just going to slice it real thin. And this is actually the heart of celery. Now you don't have to have that. I've used hearts, and I've used the regular celery. I can't really say I've tasted the difference. There we go. We're just going to run this knife across it, make sure we got it all finely diced up. Cutting any of those long pieces. Because nobody likes a big old chunk of celery in their mouth. Now if you don't like celery, then you don't got to put it in here. But I like it, and it gives a little bit of crispness to the potato salad. A little bit of that crunch. But there you go. You can see it's all sort of small dice. And we're going to rake it into the cup, see how much we got. I think we're going to have enough. We need a cup. We'll just place it in this cup. See what we have. Because we might need to cut some more. And we do. We only got about a little over a half cup there. So we'll just bring our celery back over here. And we'll continue slicing and dicing. Now, in all truth, I should have got out my big chef's knife, but I need to sharpen it, so I'm using my small one today. You can really use any knife you got. Of course, there probably are knife snobs out there go, oh no. And if you have one of those little veggie choppers, that'll work good too. As long as you get it cut up to a small dice, really doesn't matter how you get there. Now I think we got it. So we're going to take that, put it in the cup here. Make sure we got that magic cup worth. And here again, a little bit more, a little bit less isn't going to make a difference. Just for the sake of this video, because I know people want measurements, I'm doing it this way so you all know how much to put in. We're going to dump that on in the bowl, and then we'll clean up our mess here and we'll come back. Okay, got everything cleaned up after we did the onions and celery. You can see them right here in the bowl. Got them on in the bowl. You're going to want to make sure you got a big enough bowl to mix this. Now we need to chop up our onions, or not onions, excuse me, eggs. And hopefully they turned out just perfect. And look at that. Not only did they peel perfectly, but there's none of that green grayish ring around them. That's what you want, folks. That's the ticket. And we're going to go ahead and chop these up. Here again, you got one of those fancy egg choppers, then you can use it. I don't. And it's not real important how small or large you cut them up. Whatever fits your fancy. Got that one done. Slide it off in the bowl. This another one right here. Another perfect egg. I'm just so proud of myself. It would have been disappointing and sort of embarrassing when I cooked these eggs. They'd have turned out with that ugly green gray ring around them. Well, I would have shown you, because I still would have used them. One thing about me, this is real life, folks. We don't do any redos for YouTube. Got that second one done. Slide it off in there. And we'll get the third and final one cut up. And then we'll be going to make the dressing. Now the yolks, they're just sort of going to blend into all this. You're not even going to know they're there. I mean, what you're seeing is nice chunky cooked yolks. But once you start blending them in with the sauce or the dressing, not even going to be able to tell. That's why if they had turned out with that nice ugly gray or green ring around them, I'd have still used them. There's the third one, all done up. And that's got the ingredients in there. Now we've got to do the dressing. At this point, you want to sort of stir up the celery, onions, and eggs. Because we're going to be adding in the dry seasoning to all of this, and we'll mix it again. Now you will need some measuring spoons. So the first thing we're going to add in is salt. We're going to be putting in a teaspoon and a half of salt. We're just going to sprinkle that around all over those chopped up onion and celery. Now here's an important note. You can always put more in, but you can't take it out. Always remember that. Next thing we're going to be putting in, and that was just plain great value salt, non-iodized. Next thing we're going to be sticking in here is sugar. 1 teaspoon. Got 1 teaspoon level. We're just going to sprinkle it around the veggies. Just like that. Now you may have noticed I keep my sugar in a Ziploc bag. There's a reason for that. I don't use a lot of sugar in my cooking or on anything. And back before I started keeping it in the Ziploc bag, it would get all nice and hard. But by keeping it in the Ziploc, forcing the air out of it, that sugar stays nice and granulated for years. Now the next ingredient is going to be a 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. We got it. Get our bowl over here, and we're here again. We're just going to sprinkle that around the vegetables like that. And then what comes next is we're going to be taking the basil. And this is something I added to our family recipe, and I think makes it all the more better. And we take a tablespoon of that basil. We're just going to sprinkle it around to distribute it. And you can smell it. Now if you got fresh basil, then go for it. I currently don't, so I'm having to rely on the dry. The next ingredient we're going to be putting in there is the oregano. And we're going to put 1 teaspoon of oregano in there. Here again, sprinkling it to distribute it, and we'll mix this up. Okay. So that's got our dry ingredients in it, the spices. So what we're going to do right now is now we gotta make the dressing. And we're going to need some mayonnaise. The mayonnaise I love ever since I found it, started using it about 20 years back, is Duke's Real Mayonnaise. Now I won't lie to you, I started out life on Miracle Whip. Why? Because that's what my mama always used. And one day I didn't have Miracle Whip. We're just going to stir this up a little bit while I'm jabbering. And I actually went and bought Hellman's and used it for a while. Then one day, they didn't have any Hellman's. And I didn't know Duke's was so popular in the South, so I bought some. I've never changed since then. And if you haven't tried it, then you don't know what you're missing. Now this is a 1 cup scoop, but see, it won't fit. So we're going to have to scoop some out of the jar, plop it in our measuring cup. That's 1 cup right there. And just like any recipe, if you're a little less or a little bit more, ain't gonna hurt a thing. You may like your potato salad a little bit more creamy. But over the years, I found 1 cup is about perfect. So we're just going to take that in there, scoop it out. This will go in the sink. Put our mayo back up in the fridge. I don't like to leave it out. Mayo can go bad quick. The next thing, and I forgot this when I was going through the ingredients at the first of the video, you're going to need some mustard. And what you're going to want is you're going to want, and I don't normally measure this, but I am for y'all, you're going to want a heaping tablespoon. Right there. The mustard gives it a little bit of zing. Then what you're going to need is some apple cider vinegar. And you're going to want 3 tablespoons. It's 1, 2, 3. Now, that's going to give it some flavor you just will not believe. If you're saying right now, well, I've never heard of using apple cider vinegar in potato salad. Well, I hadn't either years ago. I tried it one time and it come out so good. I've used it ever since. Now we're going to take the wet ingredients and our celery and onion and spices, and we're going to mix that up really well in the bowl. See? Mix it up real well. Now to add the final ingredient, which of course is the potatoes. And we just happen to have them right here. And there you have it, there's the potatoes. Now with a large spoon, or one of them spatulas that women normally have, I don't, you're going to want to start folding this in. Just like that. You want to take your time with it. You don't want to get in a hurry. Otherwise you're going to break your potatoes way up and you're going to be having mashed potato salad. And you might like that. Now as you're doing this, some of the potatoes are going to break up anyway. And that's what gives it that not only a creamy texture, but that velvety bite to it. And it's going to remind you of what your grandma made. Trust me. Now in all the years I've been making this, and I made up a batch of this 4th of July, had company over, an old friend, female old friend to be exact, and she just raved about it. And trust me, she'll tell you her mind. If something's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. So you're just going to fold that in, incorporate it just like it is now. And it's finished. Now it's good to eat right now because we let those potatoes cool off. But it's going to be way better tomorrow. So if you can, make this the night before. The flavors are all going to soak into those potatoes. And I'm telling you, I'm going to eat a bowl right now. But I'm telling you tomorrow, it's going to be twice as good. So there we have it, folks. The only thing left to do is clean it up a little bit. Oh yeah, that sauce is really good. And we'll dress this. we'll dress our bowl up like we're taking it to Sunday dinner over at church. Or Friends Barbecue. Nasty looking bowl. And there you have it. Now at this time, what I do, and my friend thought this was a little bit unusual, is this is when I garnish it. And instead of using paprika, which is traditional, and you can use paprika if that's what you like, what I've always done is I use parsley, dried parsley, and I just shake that on top. It's all nice and green. Now if you have fresh parsley, please use it. Excuse me. Of course, she saw me doing this while I was making it, and she said, "Why you do that?" And then she corrected herself and said, "Well, you do that so yours stands out from all the rest." Well, there you have it. Instead of paprika like everybody uses, I use dried parsley, and if I have fresh, I'll use it. To me, I like it this way. So folks, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll try this potato salad, because it is the best old-fashioned potato salad a man can make. Thank y'all for watching. Till next time, y'all take care, stay safe, and God bless. Goodbye for now.